Hi there. Today I'm going to be talking more about the current DevOps and cybersecurity program that currently exists within Scalar. Firstly, who is this program meant for? If you're somebody who wants to become or create a career in DevOps, or you're somebody who's already in DevOps but wants to, let's say, progress along in the DevOps career, or you're somebody who wants to get into cloud engineering, or you're somebody who is interested in getting into cybersecurity engineering, or you're somebody who's looking at a mix of any of those two, then this program is for you. The one thing which I want to clarify is that sometimes people feel, oh wait, software engineering is the real deal. But if I become a DevOps or a cybersecurity engineer or cloud engineer, then either my job is going to get automated or I'm not the first class citizen. I want to clarify that's not true. All elements of engineering are equally important. A software doesn't work without a good DevOps team or a good cybersecurity team or a good cloud engineering team. Today, all softwares are built on top of cloud. Without a good cloud engineering team, you can't deploy the products and be cost effective about the products. Without a good DevOps team, your product is not going to be able to run in production stably. So all elements are important. Now, how do we enable this and what do we see as the need? That I'll talk about. But before I do that, I want to also talk about the principle of this program. The principle of this program is to ensure that all of you who are looking at creating careers in these fields, you do well in both the interviews at companies, but also at work at these companies. Both need to go hand in hand. The program doesn't optimize for just one versus the other. And since that is very, very important, so hence we keep talking to companies very, very often to understand how they hire and then what does a typical work look like. And if people struggle with performance, then what are the key reasons why people struggle, and then how can we build some of those inside the program as well. With that in mind, let me now get into what is then covered in the program. So I'll break it down into two parts. One is what is the content like and what is the learning like. Let me cover the learning like first. Learning is usually driven by a combination of live lectures. So you typically have 2 to 3 live lectures every week, followed by assignments. We believe that everything starts making sense once you start to implement it. And implementation doesn't happen via multiple choice questions. So you'll find most of the assignments are assignments where you're required to either write a configuration file or do some design, or you have to write some code. That's when the information becomes real. So that's what typical assignment looks like. In fact, with the advent of AI, we've also gotten very heavily into conversational assessments, which is we give you a problem statement and we have a conversation with you on your solution, nudging you towards the solution. Most of your assignment will also have TAs with you along with an AI TA, which can give you hints, can actually again give you nudges to finally reach to the solution in case you're struggling. So that's how the learning is driven. Let me also talk about the content now. Now, in all of these verticals, there are some things which are very, very common. One is, it is expected that whether you're a cloud engineer or a DevOps engineer or a cybersecurity engineer, you should be able to write basic scripts, which means knowledge of one scripting language is important. We go with Python right now, but you can choose to go with Golang or Bash if that's your favorite. But we, however, do see that almost every single company is accepting of Python as a scripting language, and that's why we stick with Python. We also believe that just knowing the language is not enough. Being able to write complex scripts is also important. So hence, we spend some time covering basic data structures and basic use cases of what complex scripts might look like so that you can write those complex scripts to become comfortable with scripting. Post that, once that has happened, then we move on to teaching you in depth about Linux and troubleshooting issues within Linux. This again is something we feel is common across all three verticals, and hence there is roughly a 2-month module which takes you through the depth of Unix systems and troubleshooting within Unix systems. Once that happens, then there's a diversion. Now you might want to become a DevOps engineer or a cloud engineer, or you might want to become a cybersecurity expert or maybe a DevSecOps in the future. If you want to become a DevOps engineer, then or a cloud engineer or a DevSecOps. Then the next module is common to all three fields, which is we have a module on DevOps tools. So for example, how do you use Docker, how do you use Kubernetes, Jenkins, how do you use an observability platform? So let's say an ELK stack or Grafana, Prometheus, etc. Some of those is then covered in DevOps tool. Again, the focus, however, is on not really just the syntax of these DevOps tools, but the principle behind these DevOps tools. Because one of the things we see is that these DevOps tools also keep changing, and we don't want you to be left behind if the tools transform in the future. Again, if you're once you're done with the DevOps tools, I mean, to be honest, for most DevOps position, you're almost there. If you want to further get deeper into cloud, become a cloud associate, cloud engineer, etc. So then there's a module on cloud where we reference AWS, and there's a 2 to 2.5 month module on AWS, getting into the depth of AWS. That makes you ready for cloud engineering kind of roles as well, apart from DevOps. Now, if instead you were interested in DevSecOps or cybersecurity engineering role, for DevSecOps, we do recommend that you still take the DevOps tools module. Post that, there is an entire specialization on cybersecurity, which is a 3 month long specialization, 3 to 4 month long specialization, where you go over concepts of cybersecurity. Once you're done with all of that, and obviously, like once you're done with the cybersecurity module, then you're also ready for careers within cybersecurity. Once you're done with all of that, then you have an optionality to continue further and learn system design and maybe a little bit of DSA. This helps you create a career as a site reliability engineer, SREs, which are typically slightly higher paying roles within DevOps, in case you have an inclination to do that. So you have an option to do that. Those 2 modules are electives, not mandatory, but you can do those if you want. Irrespective of the specialization that you have taken, if you want access to recording of the other specializations, because you're just curious about the other specializations, you will have access to recordings of the other specialization as well. So that's the overall path within the DevOps program. You have optionality to become a DevOps or an SRE. You have an optionality to become a cloud engineer or a cloud associate. And you have optionality to get into cybersecurity or DevSecOps if that's what interests you. If you're interested in knowing more about the subtopics within each of these modules, I'm attaching a link below. If you open that, then module by module, you'll be able to see the subtopics that are covered. Note that every subtopic might be covered across multiple classes or might be covered in a single class. That's not specified yet, but like the entire module will end up covering all of the topics that are there present in the link. Thank you.